You cannot be serious!
Part 2 of episode 32 or 3.
34, isn't it?
Okay, 34.
This is the bulletin, just before you go on. Bill Ferg is alive.
Is that right?
Yes.
The announcement of his death was premature?
Yeah, Mark. Thank you, Mark Twain. Yes.
Well, then in that case...
He's okay. No, he's not no limbs, but he's alive.
I wasn't sure. Someone's rang in? Or... You've rang it. Yeah, you've
Well,
tweeted.
he's checked it out.
We checked it out.
Journo.
Well, in that case, the person I'm about to introduce, we can scoop him up because it's a man. I think he's signalling as a man.
They.
We can scoop they up and we can go down and have a lobster or a mackerel or a whale shark
Yes,
or
we
something down at the lobster cave and... when we go down there for the competition. If you want to join the competition to come and have lunch or dinner with us, go to our Instagram page Sam, Mike and Don. Don't look at your watch, Mick, please. Go to our Instagram page Sam, Mike and Don and hit the link to enter the competition.
When is that lunch?
It's coming. It's imminent.
Well, it's been going for weeks.
Well, it's coming up in the first or second week of this month. Don't say the first week's now. It's probably the second week of this month, Don. We'll let you know if you can get your brain...
Because I am going to Queensland.
Are you? What for?
Show jump.
Well, you're not going to drive the
Do you want
horses.
to come? Yeah. Do you want to come? We're going as far as Charleville.
Let me get this straight, Don. I'm going to sit in a horse float with you and drive for a week up to Queensland with you and the horses, am I?
Well, yeah.
They got in
Charleville.
What?
Well, submitted in writing. Are you going to Charleville?
Well, I'll finish up at... that'll be one of the many shows.
Does Mr. Joyce have flights that go up there? Because I might meet you there. I'll fly.
They do. They do fly into Charleville and Roma.
Wow.
And Gundawindi.
What if I was in a horse float with you for a week and the horses in the back going... and you going, shut up in there, I won't feed you. What would we do, Donald? Would I drive the truck?
No, you'd entertain me for the whole trip.
What about...
You wouldn't shut up. You just put a microphone on the dashboard and let you go.
Yeah.
What, and speak to myself?
Yeah, no, you'd think...
Speak to the horses?
Yeah, you think you're very entertaining as soon as the microphone comes on, and that'd keep you in a good mood. Michael, you notice how before we come on air, he's a little bit touchy.
A little bit?
And as soon as the microphone goes on, the light, isn't he his amiable self?
Now, be amiable and introduce our guest, will you?
Okay, well, this man... I think we can say that. I'll say person. He has played for a couple of AFL clubs, Hawthorn and Carlton. He's a radio presenter, been on SEN and is now on, I think, RSN 927, which I presume is Radio Sports Network. Is that what RSN means? He's hosted a car show called... Test Drive, which I was never asked to come on. I've got cars coming at me but I've never been asked to come on. He's, he's...
You're a little bit shitty about that, are you?
A little bit shitty, Donald, yeah, to be quite honest.
Because you are a name and you have got a lot of cars.
He has now taken up the running. He is now the coach of one of the AFWL, or is it AFLW? What is it?
You know what it is.
AFWL?
What do you, it would be AFLW, would it not?
Oh, well, it's Australian Football Women's League or the Australian Women's Football League or the Australian League of Women's Football.
You watched it on the weekend and you thought it was good. So
I did actually watch
it.
I watched a bit of the AFWL football I thought it was entertaining. And
Daniel, would this go on in your show and your interview?
And this man has very kindly come in at your invitation, Mick, and his name is Daniel Harford.
That's some sort of intro. Some sort of intro.
I was going to say Dan Hartman. Do you know what Dan Hartman sang?
I don't know Dan's work.
Dan Hartman. What's that song? Anyhow, go.
Daniel.
I was going to shake your hands, but I'm not allowed to with the coronavirus these days.
No. Good point.
Health ministers advised against that.
You'll be pleased to know I've got two of the most negative people in the land alongside me here. One of them, John Sammy Newman, graciously conceded this morning that he was impressed with the standard of women's footy.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, and my own view at the weekend was it's the best weekend of women's football I've seen, and that the standard is probably 30% higher than it's been previously.
Yeah, hard to put a number on it, Mick, but it's certainly getting better. And the longer these players and athletes are in the system, the better they will be. And the more opportunities through pathway coaching and the like. Is that Dan Hartman?
Dan Hartman, instant replay.
Oh,
Sorry, Dan.
sorry about
Look,
that.
we'll just go. We'll start again, will we?
Oh, can you believe this? If we talk
Doesn't sound like a very good song.
Donald.
Dan Hartman, instant replay. Go ahead.
What about your microphone technique?
No, I was speaking off camera to him.
Daniel, we're as one on that, and I think Sam is slowly coming across. The man next to me, who played with your footy club, Donald Scott, is negative in
Life or just the football?
yeah, no, in
just
life,
the
and
football.
particularly about women's football.
Why, Don? Tell me why.
I watched the first game, Daniel. Melbourne played Footscray, and I thought it was fantastic. Played at the MCG. It was a combined.
the very first one.
The very
Okay,
first. I was just astounded at the athleticism those girls showed. They are
So they
now
suddenly dropped off, have they?
Yes, they have, and they are now dredging the. They're looking for numbers, and these.
How do you know?
Well, I have obviously because these girls can't play. They can't kick.
You don't
they
watch
miss the
it.
ball. They don't know where it's
Oh,
going.
that is just.
How do you
arrant
know
nonsense.
that, Don? If you're not
Because
watching?
I've watched it, Daniel. I've turned it off. I turned it off after a couple of minutes, but I did watch the first game, and I complimented that. I thought it was terrific.
No, but that could be a fair point. That the
What, did he watch
the
it for 2
talent
minutes?
pool, the talent pool has been spread a bit thin because of more sides. But besides all that, when I watched it, and I just watched it on the weekend, I was entertained by it. I thought
What entertained you?
Good question.
their naivety, their brawn, their enthusiasm.
Naivety in the way that they went for the ball.
Yes, absolutely,
Yes,
all that.
I agree with that.
Okay,
We're trying to get rid of that too, by the way. It's quite dangerous.
No, of course.
How do you do that,
you
Daniel?
serious?
By trying to get
Well,
rid
you don't
of it?
want anyone attacking the football in a dangerous manner. So our job is to make sure, as coaches, we try and teach them the correct technique. No different to men's footy. You teach them technique and technical
So at
aspects of the
training, you're
contest.
throwing the ball out at them, teaching them how to use their bodies,
Absolutely,
how
yeah.
to position their bodies.
Yeah, well, one of the big things clearly in football these days is concussion and head knocks. And if you've got players in your competition that haven't played 15 years of football from when they were 5 to 20 or 10 to 25 like the boys have been playing, they don't have the experience or the techniques from coaching through their junior years because there just hasn't been those resources. So it's our job to make sure that when they do come in, particularly the ones that started the AFLW 4 seasons ago who had no support, no real coaching through their time, that we are the ones that take responsibility for that. Because the last thing we want to see, just like the men, is the players getting injured when they don't need to be.
So I liked the fact that I liked the brutality of it, and while you're trying and the AFL and contact sport are trying to take the brutality out of it, that's why we sit and pay to watch a heavyweight title fight, because we want to see someone actually slug it out in the ring. I liked the raw brutality of their game, and if it can be monitored,
brutality
and
is
That's
the right
different
word.
to safety, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? We love the
course.
contest as well,
No,
and the
of course,
players love
Daniel,
the contest.
I don't want to see people knocked out and that, but those girls threw caution to the wind. Those women, those people threw caution to the wind, and I just thought it was entertaining.
But it's
to watch.
intensity rather than brutality, isn't it? It's not brutal.
Well, it's just
That's it, Daniel.
That's a good pickup, I reckon. Yeah.
that's right.
It's more the intent.
Gay abandon. I like that. Well done. Gay abandon.
Daniel, why don't more people in the AFLW
That's what it is too, Sam. AFLW, just by the way.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know. Just information.
But my point was that it was.
You enjoyed it.
It
I'm
did start
pleased
off
about
to
that.
be AWFL.
No, it didn't.
No.
It did. It originally started off. They said, "Let's call it the AWFL, Australia Women's Football League," and they said the acronym is awful, and we
Awful.
don't want that connotation on it. And that is a fact.
Is that a fact?
That is a fact.
I like your
They
facts.
said no, we won't.
Did you make that up?
Did you make that up?
I didn't make that up, Daniel.
Where'd you get that from?
he's got a very retentive memory. I wouldn't question.
No, mate. I remember that conversation happening when it started.
I think there was people out there wondering what it would be called. I'm not sure it ever got through too many
And the
focus groups at
reason
the
they
AFL
didn't go with
headquarters.
AWFL
'Cause it
was
would
they
be
said,
awful.
well, let's just swap 2 of the letters around, and it means the same thing.
Correct.
And that is correct.
We've ended up in the right spot, I think.
It doesn't matter what you call it. I was entertained by it.
And we're pleased about that, Sam.
Not here.
What?
You're not pleased about it?
The Google man says he's got no memory of AWFL.
Mate,
He'd know, Michael. wouldn't
well,
he?
how would the Google man be? How would the Google man have anything to do with it if it was an informal discussion between the people trying to come up with a name? It wouldn't be written
I thought
down.
you said that it was AWFL.
No, I said the reason they didn't go with AWF.
Okay. Righto.
I didn't say it was ever officially called that. I said the reason.
What? Oh, Daniel.
So Daniel,
Happy birthday, Michael,
So
by the way.
Daniel,
Thanks, mate.
Happy birthday.
So why did you want to become involved with coaching a women's football side?
Good question. I didn't initially. I was just
Well, then
I was
why
asked
did
to
you?
do it from a guy, Matthew James, who was an umpire, umpired 2 grand finals, I think, back in his umpiring days. He was the general manager of...
Glenn Jones.
No, Matthew Jones was a younger
Glenn's
version.
Glenn's Indigenous, so I think you'd probably be able to tell the difference between Glenn and Max.
Well, I couldn't tell the difference between their names, number one. How would I differentiate otherwise?
Come on. let
Very different
Daniel
personalities.
finish, yeah?
And he was the general manager of women's footy at
different colour.
Collingwood a couple of years ago. And I was on holiday with my family in Vietnam. And I got a text from him saying, we need to catch up for a coffee. And we hadn't spoken for a couple of years, Sam. And I said, why? I'm on holidays. What do you need? He goes, I want you to be involved in Collingwood AFLW.
Were you coaching?
No, I just finished coaching. This was the holiday to end my coaching career at local footy level where I'd coached for 10 years. My wife had suggested more time with the kids might be a good idea. I can't afford a
Where,
divorce,
Hang
Sam.
on, you were coaching what?
Where?
Who?
I coached Baldwin in the Eastern Footy League.
Really?
For
You've done your
5 years,
research,
and
Don, you would have
then
known that.
St Kevin's.
I know that. I got it written down here.
He was very instrumental.
Coach St Kevin's, Daniel.
And St Kevin's as well,
My
yes.
word, I knew
Yes,
St
and the old
Kevin's.
boys. So I spent 10 years there and I had enough, and the kids were getting older and I needed some time with the kids, said my beautiful bride. So we're on holiday and I got this message and I said to her, I've been asked to do this Collingwood women's position, assistant coach, through the summer, 5-6 months. Kids are out of school, so it's not too much stress on the home life. What do you reckon? And she said, why wouldn't you? So as soon as you get the why wouldn't you, you're straight into those sort of things. And I'd never come across women's footy, let alone coached it. So I threw myself into the job, and then within 2 weeks I fell in love with women's footy, Sam. 2
Why?
weeks.
Why? What?
Because what Sam was saying before makes a bit of sense. It's not so much a naivety, there's a purity about women's football, which I absolutely adore, because there's not that backlog of baggage, of history, of money, of all that stuff. That it goes back to why you play footy. When we played kids, we were kids playing footy because we loved it, because it was a great game. You got a chance to play it. These girls have never had the opportunity to play it. Certainly, this level with this level of investment or opportunity, and now they've got it. They are just throwing themselves into it left, right, and centre, and that is quite captivating to be a part of and to feel that. And then, from a coaching perspective, you make a real big difference really quickly, because it's coming from a lowish base, is what you were saying before, which is absolutely correct. And we can make a really big difference in these players and the level of football, Mike, as you were talking about, really quickly. So from a coaching perspective, it's a very good job.
So I will accept purity over naivety. That's one and the same thing. That's what I was getting at, Donald. Have you received any blowback from you being a man? Coaching a women's football side?
No, I
Because,
haven't.
we've just discussed that the 6 people heading up the NRL broadcast team are women.
Yeah, no, I haven't, I must admit. I know there is a real push from people within the industry to see more women involved. And I
Yes.
think that's a good thing too,
That's
just
fair
by the
enough.
way. But it's a bit of supply and demand, isn't it? Again, it goes back to the opportunities that have been prior, and there's been mostly men in football, be it coaches or players. So there's more chance of being a male coach, being around to coach the women's team at this stage, because the female pathway hasn't been developed from a coaching perspective either.
But
so
there
that'll
have
come.
been female coaches prior.
Yep.
And
In
they're
the
no longer
AFLW?
yes, and
Yep.
they're no longer in the system.
Yeah, so
Or-
Michelle Cowan is involved at West Coast. She coached Freo. She's now an assistant at West Coast. Beck Goddard was the premiership coach at Adelaide in the first year. She's now coaching Hawthorn in the VFLW, so she's got that senior position after a couple of years out. And a lot of that was due to work pressure as well. She was a federal police officer. And this is the thing, it's not a full-time wage, so you're giving up your life effectively for 6 months. I'm lucky I get to talk sport in the morning, and that's my job. I've got the rest of the day to coach and do that sort of stuff. So I'm able to do it. But there is more. There are more women coming through the pathway. We've got one at Carlton, Shannon McFerrin, who's a women's footy legend, who I pinched from Collingwood when I was there, and she's our senior assistant coach and midfield coach. And there's a couple of rippers at Lauren Moorcroft at North Melbourne's an absolute ripper. There's a couple of rippers coming through the system, and then you're going to get your players. This is what's going to be really exciting. The players that have played through the AFLW in the first 4 years, 5 years, they'll start to coach now in the back end of their careers, and then you'll get a really good flow.
Have the AFL created a monster here because the girls went out this year looking for more pay and a few other issues as well?
The women.
So they were politically...
You can call them girls. It's all right. They call themselves girls. It's okay.
The AFL set it up to be politically correct or inclusive initially, but now have they created a monster?
Well, it depends what you define as a monster. I think the women's game is a monster. Absolutely, it's a beast. The level of participation across the nation and the impact it's having on local communities, which I think is just brilliant. And I don't think it's a monster in terms of what they're asking or what they're hoping for. You want to have ambitions to hopefully one day see this as a professional league. That's a way down the track as far as I'm concerned.
How do you reconcile in this OH&S days of care and litigious behaviour, how do you reconcile the fact that you want your girls to be aggressive, very desirous of getting the ball but not too aggressive? How do you temper their aggression?
Well, it's just through teaching, Sam. It's just through technique. You want them to be aggressive. Absolutely. They're playing football. It's a collision sport. It's a very, very good thing.
I think you'll find we're just talking about banning the bump in AFL.
No, well, that's stupid too.
Isn't that ridiculous? Why doesn't that get spoken about?
Well, we just spoke about it.
So
we don't want to temper their aggression. We want to teach them how to use it effectively, like we would boys and young men that you coach through the system. And the wonderful thing that they get out of this, the women get out of this, is the opportunity to express themselves physically. There's not many women's sports that allow you to express yourself physically, and they get that chance through footy. And we know, well, I think we all know, I think it's the greatest game on the planet, Australian rules footy. And they get a chance to do that and be really physical and express themselves that way, as on top of showing how they can be skillful at the same time.
Your biggest problem, Daniel, as I see it, and I'm on side, right?
I know
I'm a supporter. 11 ACLs this year.
Yep.
And
might be 12 actually.
Well, okay, say 12. And that's not an aberration. I mean, the girls have seemed to be more prone to the big knee injury than the blokes.
Yep.
Is there a study going on about this?
I'm not sure that... no, there is. La Trobe Uni are doing one at the moment in conjunction with the AFL and
You got
the
any
AFLW.
theories?
Well, the straight out one is biomechanically they're different. Physically they're different. They have, and it's all due to their hips and their knee angle. So for childbearing, the hips are in a different angle and position than male pelvises. And then as a result of that, your knees are joined at a different angle, and therefore you are more susceptible. That's a medical fact. There's no denying that.
But why do those same women play basketball and tennis and hockey, all those sports, without the same incidence of knee damage?
Well, none of those have the level of force going through them
Really?
as
What,
consistently.
tennis doesn't?
As consistently through, and the rotation and the 360-degree nature of the game. No other sport is played like AFL footy.
No, but the women that I've seen who have done their knees in women's footy,
Yep.
they're not collision injuries.
No,
They're
most of them are just
putting their foot
change
down.
of direction. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you change direction on the other sports.
You do?
On hard courts.
Correct.
No grass. It's on concrete
So,
and boards.
so there's no give. So there's no flexion.
Last week I said women weren't anatomically suitable to play AFL women's football, and you said that's nonsense. Daniel's just said they're not anatomically suited to play our contact sport, but they do it anyhow because of all that. And he's just said there's a dozen knee injuries. In tennis, mate, you don't have people running at you, knocking you and balking and twisting and running at people.
But
Daniel
guys,
agrees.
you've forgotten
The
the
knee
basic.
injuries-
Those three sports you just mentioned, tennis, they started at an early age,
Yeah.
so they're conditioning their body. Hockey, they started at an early age, conditioning their body. Basketball, they started at an early age, their bodies are conditioned. Now, these
non-contact
ladies
point.
that are
It's a
playing,
great point.
these ladies that are playing football, their bodies are not in the same shape. The muscle definition is not such, and they look, some of them, very, very
And all
unfit.
non-contact sports, those other ones.
Well, you're
They
talking
don't
about years of
fit.
training. You're talking about training years and experience in the game. You're spot on, Don. That's another element. They don't have that 15 years of football activity and movement to strengthen the football muscles that you need around your knee to stabilise that joint. That's a great point. That's
Daniel,
absolutely another element.
This man over here, the Foss, he's saying football's a collision sport. The injuries, the knees that are being done are not done in collisions. primarily women's.
Majority of them this year have not been. Yep.
Indirectly, they are.
No.
It's a change your direction.
Change your
That's
direction.
correct. And
Well, that's not
why
a
do you
collision.
change your direction so you don't get hit?
Oh, you
change direction in every other sport too.
You change your direction so if someone's coming at you and you want to twist out of the way and get the ball, you don't want to
You
be
imagine
hit.
the talk that goes through women's knees playing tennis on hard courts when they've got to change direction.
They're all facing the one way in women's tennis. They're not balking and twisting.
Oh, they don't
and
go
going
sideways or backwards. No. Yeah, but the footwear in
Pre-season
football.
grounds are an issue as well. The men have been doing pre-season ACLs for years as well, and we're playing in that time of the year, so I think that's probably another layer as well. That's not a very medical excuse for it, but
Do you think
I'm sure that's part of it.
Do you think it'll deter girls or the parents of young girls from allowing them to play?
Oh, I think maybe a small portion, yeah. But I would imagine that the men's game is going to have a similar problem with concussions and parents. So I go back to my point before. I think it's the greatest game in the world, and I think everyone wants to play it. Most people want to play it because of how dynamic and exciting it is.
So
How have you differed your coaching now that you're coaching women to men?
Not too much, to be honest. I started out like all young coaches. You're a bit abrasive and obnoxious and think you know everything. Like I certainly did playing coaching local footy, and then you evolve and understand how you need to manage people and get into their heads a bit more. So my last couple of years at St Kevin's have been a very similar style to how I coach the girls at Carlton. It's the phrasing is a little bit different because they don't have that bank of knowledge, which so you got to really be specific with your messaging, and your words are very important and the way you put them together. Whereas the guys who have come around and known, grown up with footy language, sort of get what you're saying regardless of how you say it. The girls don't not necessarily do that.
In the way you deliver it, you
you're a
men
cover,
and men and
aren't
women,
you?
different personalities, different psyches. So, do you temper that, or are you aware of it, or do you just?
No, I
go
treat the
same?
girls as I treated the boys when I coached them. I coach them as footballers. They just happen to be girls, and that's how I treat them.
But you're more cuddly, aren't you?
But I am. I'm a very affectionate dude, and but I was with the guys as well at the local clubs that I coached. I was a cuddler, and we'd be physical, and no different with the girls.
So we're taking it relatively seriously. Do you think the AFL are just paying lip service to this novel sport that started? Are you ticked off at them not taking it seriously?
Well, in fairness, I don't think they knew what it was going to be. The AFL this was supposed to be their first year. 2020 was supposed to be the first year of the AFLW. So there was supposed to be this backlog of admin and focus groups and identification of what the game would be and look like 3 years ago. And then we rushed it in 2017 or whatever the first year was. I'm not sure why Gil wanted to get it in so quickly, but they did it. And in the end, it doesn't matter when you start. It gives you a chance to form your competition. So I don't think they treat it as a joke or a gimmick. This is now as I said before to Don, it's a beast. Women's footy and girls footy is huge across the nation, and it's only going to get bigger. So they're taking it very seriously. I'm just not sure they ever knew how big it was going to be so quickly. So they've been perhaps caught on the back foot just a touch.
Daniel, how do you handle, or do you have the dynamics within the team? Do you have relationships between the players?
Hello.
And hello, what?
What? Go ahead.
How do you handle the dynamics within the team, the relationships, the breakdowns that happen, and whatever else?
You mean emotional relationships?
Yes. Romantic relationships, I suppose you'd call it.
Well, any relationship, what you need to be able to do when you get to the footy club, and this is very, very clear in our world, is once you walk through the doors, all the baggage is left outside and you become a part of a team.
But what about relationships within the team?
Yeah, well, that happens. That happens across the league. That's part of the business. I'm not going to tell anyone who they can and can't love. That's not my business.
But how does that affect the team, the harmony within the team?
Yeah, no. When it goes pear-shaped, and fortunately I haven't had that situation to deal with. I imagine it would be quite disruptive if left to fester. But I think as the coach, as the footy ops manager, as the boss of women's footy, you'd have to get in there and sort that out pretty quickly because you can't afford to let it affect your performance because we're an 8-week season. We haven't got time for that.
Daniel, one of the great advertising tools in the women's competition is one of your girls, Taylor Harris.
She is.
She's a genuine athlete, an excellent footballer, despite the fact that she may not be as good on the ground as she is in the air. And she's a pretty girl, and that's still relevant, isn't it? Tell me a bit about her.
Taylor's a very unique young woman. She's really savvy in terms of what she wants out of the game. She's an outstanding athlete, as you rightly say. Her ability to focus on 2 different sports for different portions of the year and give it everything she's got is quite remarkable.
What is her other sport?
Boxing.
She's a boxer. She's the Australian champ in middleweight, I think it is, a middleweight division. And I'm sure she'll get a chance on the global stage sooner rather than later because she's quite dynamic in the boxing ring, and I'd hate to be on the other side of those gloves. So she's quite phenomenal the way she prepares. She's a really unique young woman who's come from a very simple background up in Queensland, good family, who love footy. Was her old man is a ripper. Who played footy up there, was a local legend up there. She's a really dynamic personality. She knows what she wants, and I think that's really important. The other thing is with Taylor, she's been through an enormous amount of turmoil through the last couple of years, and had been the subject of some shocking incidences in the world of Australian sport and social media. Well, you talk about the reaction to that photo and
the kicking.
The
Do you remember, you know what we're talking about, Sam?
Yes.
Yeah, Taylor, with that classical kicking action.
Yes, Mick.
That
I do.
And you know what she is,
I have
Sam?
a big photo of it blown up on my wall at home.
Piece of art for you. Yeah, big, nice piece
You
of art
idiot.
for Michael Wilson. You know what she is? She's 22. And you take yourself back to when you were 22, and there's no way known. We're all dealing with the stuff that she's had to deal with as a 22-year-old in this new modern world of social media, which we love and hate at the same time, can be quite painful and really hard to take at times. And she's 22.
Do you tell your girls to? Oh, you can't order them to not be involved in social media. But what's your attitude about that?
You've got to let the girls express themselves.
What you going to tell people?
I just said you can't tell them.
Well, of course you can't tell him.
No,
you can't tell his girls not
but he
to
might
do anything.
advise them. He might do what the blokes are doing, aren't they?
This
They're
is the
trying to
thing.
wean
Advise the world not to be on it.
Yeah, this is the thing that the men's game and the women's game, because the men's game is so serious and cutthroat and kill or be killed, anyone who posted material like the girls post in terms of having fun and enjoying it and doing their stuff outside of football, they'd be hauled through the coals, and the media would be all over them saying they don't take themselves seriously and that type of thing, because we're so focused, we're so narrow in our vision of what footballers should be, I think, from an outside perspective. But the girls don't have that baggage to carry, so they're allowed to be themselves and express themselves in that medium as well. I think it's fantastic, to be honest with you.
Are they betting on
Thank you,
women's
Daniel.
football?
I don't think the players are, Don.
No. Are the general public betting?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
Well, that leads me to another question.
Good.
Are they physically...
I'd hope you weren't going to leave it there.
Are they physically capable each week of going out and performing at their optimum if you are betting on the football?
Yeah. We condition them to be footballs for the entire yeah, absolutely.
I am
his
talking.
brain's been
Absolutely.
I am
donated to
talking
medical
about
science.
them and their periods.
Donald.
Oh yes, no. Well, these are the conversations you can't be afraid to have, Michael. This is a part of female life. Every month you have a week of menstruation. These are the things that you've got to be across and be comfortable talking about.
No, hang on. We haven't finished got an answer here, because I asked from a practical viewpoint of betting on the football, and if you have got quarter of your team in that situation, in a particular game, you've punted on them, then they're not going to play up to their ability.
Well, who says
Well,
they're not?
I'm not sure that's
Who
a
says they're not? Yeah.
definite
Well, I'm asking
correlation.
the
I don't think that's a
Are you
correlation.
saying, Don, if quarter of the side has their period, you shouldn't bet on them? Is that what you're saying?
Well, are they up to performing at their optimum?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary at this
See the
stage.
book written on that.
I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary. But a fool and his money are easily parted, Don, as we know.
Yes.
So what? No. If you're a punter and you're betting on a team, I'm asking you a very
Why are we
logical
worried about pandering to punters anyway?
Well, what is the AFL pandering to
Well,
punting
that's a
for?
separate issue, isn't it?
Why are we betting on football? We shouldn't be betting on it.
That's a broader topic, though. That one.
Yes.
Isn't
Yeah,
it?
I know, but you've brought it up.
So,
Yeah, there's no correlation as far as
so
I know,
Don-
Don, that
Don has,
that affects the
Will you
performance.
shut up, John? He's trying to answer. Don't talk over him. You've got no manners. Well, very few.
No correlation as far as I'm aware. I haven't seen any deteriorate or inferior output on the back of that.
Yes, you may speak, John.
Thank you.
John.
So Don has just tumbled headlong into the subtle way I was going to get into it. We've asked 3 women footballers, girls, to come on here. And I've got a feeling they're a bit reticent, because we would probably at some stage of the interview, ask them about the football, and then we'd get on to the things that Don has just hit you over the head with.
That's not why they didn't come on.
Well,
we
I've got
don't
a
know.
feeling.
We
I've got a
don't know.
feeling they probably won't want to be asked about the undertones of interplayer relationships. Has that been a problem? The other thing that they might not want to answer, and you might not want to answer, but I'm sure you will, do you accept trans players coming from men's sport to play in women's football?
Well,
Do you accept that, and do you think...
Well, not currently because they're not allowed.
Is that right?
Well, we haven't had one enter the system just yet. There was
So-
Hannah was the obvious example of that. Hannah Mounsey a couple of years ago.
So it's been banned, has it?
Well, she
Trans
wasn't
players
eligible.
coming in to play women's
She wasn't
sport.
eligible at the time to nominate for the draft. And I can't quite recall the parameters that were placed on her. I apologise, but there were parameters placed on her from a physical perspective that she didn't meet. So therefore, she was ineligible.
What a testosterone level?
That was one of them. There was 3 or 4 of them, I think. And again,
Well,
I'm
thank
not
heavens.
quite sure of that.
Hey, Daniel, I read a story on the weekend. There's one of the players, I think she's at the Bulldogs, is an obstetrician.
Yes.
Now, and there was another example of a teacher. How can they play? How can they concentrate on football and get 16 or 18 grand a year when they've got jobs like these that sustain them in life?
Why is it different to the way it was played through in my time in the 90s when players were working, the 80s before that, when you were playing,
it's
Don
not,
and Sam?
That's not the situation now, though.
What do you mean?
Well, it's
Why?
changed.
Why?
Men don't.
No, but they did.
Yeah, but they don't anymore.
No, I understand that. But they haven't got 150 years of background either, the AFLW. This is a very new concept.
Yeah. So you got no issue with your
So I'm comfortable with this as a starting point, absolutely. I mean, I think this is a terrific starting point.
So
Introduce them.
So that'll evolve.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
I think that these ladies, if they've still got a job outside of football, are far more balanced
And
than
I-
what the men are, because the men are just concentrating on football. At least these girls
I
have
agree
got
with you.
something else to do beside football.
I would encourage the AFL men players to have a job.
What was the
Not sure.
basis of your question then, Mick?
I read this story and about 2 players. One was an obstetrician, the other was a teacher.
They got jobs.
And they're making the point that would they be able to continue playing football?
You serious?
Yeah, because
What do you think they get down at 9 o'clock to Optus Oval and go through drills and blackboard lectures?
Well,
they
how many
turn up
hours-
to training after work, don't
how
they?
many hours a week do you require them?
I think I'm allowed to have them through the season 13 and a half plus game day. Pre-season.
You're allowed.
Oh, whoa.
Allowed.
Yes, this is-
What do you mean by allowed?
Well, the AFLPA set a guideline of how
Workplace,
many hours you can deal with the players, because all the pay's scheduled on a pro rata per hour basis. That's the figure they come up with for the payment scale. So we're allowed to have them for a period of time. I think it's 13 and a half in season. I don't really worry about the time, to be honest. I just move the magnets and blow the whistle. And then game day, so you have them after work. So it's basically like you would have played back in your day. Go to work, come to training after that.
That's right.
Get home at
So
10
you
o'clock.
break it down. How long do you try? How long?
5 till
So
8.
it's about 6 till 10:30. We probably have them 3 nights a week, 13 and a half hours.
6 till 10:30.
Well, by the time you do your meetings and selection and dinner, we have dinner every night as a team.
And that's basically
So that's warm
when
up.
we started playing.
Warm up, medical, preparation, training, recovery, weights, in all your meetings in your session.
Okay, can I ask you a technical question? The marking to me is outstanding in the women's competition. I think their hands are surprisingly good. But the kicking is going to take longer, isn't it? And what are you doing about teaching the girls about kicking skill and hand passing skill?
Well, just as much as we can. Just getting hold of them ball in hand as much as we can. That's the challenge. But what we're seeing, and you would have noticed this with your involvement with Kate at Richmond, is that the young players who have been playing for 10 years walk into the game now and they can do all that. They're footballers. They get it. They know the skills, they know the game, and they're able to get out there and really impact contests. And they're the ones that are absolutely setting the competition alight, no doubt. But for the players that haven't had that time and ball in hand, they're the ones that you've got to spend more time with and just train them. You've just got to spend time with them and help them learn the craft. Because you're not going to get them to kick as far as the boys, because musculature doesn't allow you to do that. So you've got to work on other ways. So accuracy, technique, precision, all that sort of stuff. It's ball in hand. It's repetition. It's a 10,000 hour rule. Doesn't matter what sport you play.
10,000 hour rule. That's exactly right. Do you know what the 10,000 hour rule is, Don?
I'm just testing the microphone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that all right, John? I moved it. I know you
Don's
chucked the
donated
wobbly.
his brain to medical science. Did you know that? What do you think they would determine from it if
Medical
they
science
opened it up?
gave it back.
Yeah, they said, no, we're pretty right. Thanks.
short
Here, we're
summer.
sending it back in a truck. Holy mackerel. The 10,000 hour rule, I don't think you'll know. That's called outliers, isn't it? Or something. I don't think you'll understand what the
No, I
10,000...
really do. You've lost me.
Anyone who is successful ever in life has had to have put 10,000 hours at least in of their profession in order to be classed a
It's
genius.
a lot of hours, isn't it?
It's a lot.
Hey, Daniel, the
Beatles.
50 metre penalty, the 50 metre rule in your game should be changed in the women's game.
Is that a question or a statement?
It's a statement, and it's going to be backed up by a question. It's way too harsh because the girls can't kick 50 metres. And there were games at the weekend where massive changes of momentum occurred because of a 50 metre. Have you got a view about that?
I'm okay with it as long as they officiate it appropriately and make sure it's only delivered when it is a significant transgression. And the one that gets everyone is the protected area.
Yeah,
And when the girls are trying to get out of the area and they just walk past and they're not impacting play. It's the same with the boys in fairness, I suppose. I hate that one. That's 50 for that I hate. The one on the weekend where the player got the ball and dropped it instead of passing it to the opposition. I mean, that's a clear-cut penalty every day of the week. You just know you can't do that. That was just a moment.
It's a kick and a half.
Yep. And that was from the boundary line too, so that was made a big difference. Leveled the scores.
Will a girl ever play AFL football?
Men's football?
John.
I wouldn't think. Now that they've got their own competition, I wouldn't see any reason.
What,
John?
That wasn't a serious question, was it?
What that a woman might get recruited to play AFL football? It was an absolutely serious question.
Mon Conti is the most talented female player I've seen.
Oh, she's very good.
Yes, and what are you laughing at?
Because no one gave him any respect.
No one need to give him too much because they've got their own competition now, the girls, so they don't need to play in the men's footy.
That is about the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Me or you?
Pardon?
My question, my answer, your question.
Instant replay, Dan Hartman. If a woman excels in that game and someone has their eye on her from the AFL, and she got a chance to earn $250,000 or $300,000 playing in the senior competition, and she's good enough, what is wrong with them transgressing over to the other competition?
I'm not sure it's allowed by AFL rules. It is the first one. Would be the first
women
one.
can't play AFL football?
They can play AFLW football.
AFL football, not AE.
I'm not sure. I don't know, Sam. I'm just going on what I recall in a conversation. They can't play.
But
They play a women's game. It's like saying you want to have the 100-metre gold medalist at the Olympics running in the 4x100 metre men's relay. They're still going to be slower.
Nothing of the sort.
Absolutely, it is. They're doing the same thing. They're playing the same sport.
Absolutely,
but the time is still inferior because men are biologically and anatomically better and faster in these regards.
No, Dan.
Stronger.
Daniel, that is absolutely correct. I wasn't saying that I was saying if someone was good enough, a woman was good enough to play AFL football, there's no reason why she couldn't get a game.
Well, I think there is. I think she's not allowed to.
And you haven't taken
Because she's a woman.
Yeah.
John, you haven't thought of the other
to do
side.
with change rooms or
I don't know the
Sammy,
detail.
toilets or...
You haven't thought of the
if
repercussions
Don had asked
of
that question, you would have laughed him out of the room. You would have called him RoboCop, give your brain to science, all those cliches of yours.
No,
that was the dumbest question of the morning.
No, I thought it was a very
asked
good
the
question. You didn't take into account the cost of a woman playing AFL, men's AFL football. They'd have to have their own change room, showers, and whatever else. That's a cost.
I hope those earphones aren't making you go deaf. I just said that. That. I don't understand why you said that was a ridiculous question. If a woman was physically strong enough and big enough and had the aerobic skills to play AFL football, why wouldn't she be recruited?
I'll give you Serena Williams. Serena Williams.
Yes.
She wouldn't beat the 600th ranked player on the men's circuit in the world.
600?
No, she wouldn't.
No.
The anatomical differences, they can't compete.
But this is so we had a lad in here, a boy called Dylan Buckley, who was as big as that biro, and he played 48 games. You're not telling me that the fittest, strongest woman with enough skills mightn't get equal billing with Dylan Buckley to
Would
play
not
AFL
be as
football.
quick as Dylan Buckley.
Wouldn't be as quick.
Wouldn't
be
kick
as
it as
quick.
far. No.
Exactly.
Couldn't do that handstand on the trestle.
That's right. That's right.
Another issue, Daniel, that's coming up in the private schools here is the grooming aspect. A couple of weeks ago at St Kevin's, do you fear the AFL in years to come? I know one director has spoken to me and he's a little bit worried about that, the grooming of women within your competition.
Well, in fairness, Don, I don't think about those things very often, I must admit, and I don't know too much about how it would impact us. So it's probably a question I'm thinking about on the fly, an answer on the fly. I don't think it would, but it would like anyone who was possibly going to be put in that position wouldn't last very long in the competition. I wouldn't think.
You knew you were going to be asked that question.
No, I didn't.
Before you got here in the car, driving in, you thought they're going to ask us about transgender people and women's anatomical differences,
I had that
and
bit-
the
I had
fact
that
that
bit
we're
covered.
groomed, and the fact that relationships. You knew you were going to be asked those questions.
I had a few of those themes in my head, Sam. Not quite that one.
Yeah.
Nick, could I ask you another one too?
No,
And
before
we just
I want
digress.
to clarify about grooming. You and I, Donald, used grooming in the wrong sense last week. It's
What did you
grooming
say?
pertains to pedophilia.
In illegal activity,
Yeah.
It's not to
Courting.
what do you not to courting.
Because we said that it's been taken to another level now.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, Sam, Don was talking about the Sir Kevin's example, which was what you were talking about there. With the
Well, this
pedophilia.
is what grooming is, Donald. So it doesn't apply to the women. Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse.
Well, they've only just gone to half that statement, and they've just disregarded the second half. You read the first part out, and it's not. It's just now become common that it's not pedophilia. It's just the first part of what you said. It's been taken to that extreme, hasn't it? That's
so the
what
important
it is.
elements is the child element. The second half of this is what you're
Yes,
saying,
yes.
Sam.
In
terms of grooming as a
that
term.
has been disregarded as grooming is just generally known as the first part of what you said then. Generally.
I didn't understand any of that.
Well, read it out. Read it out. Go
Please.
on, and I'll tell you when to stop.
Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young
just
person.
builds an emotional connection. Bang, that's it. The
No,
rest of
no,
it.
No. It says with a child or young person.
I know, but people now just use that as an apocryphal term for grooming. They don't worry about it when we're talking about it in AFLW football and any other sport. We're just talking about having a relationship
From a position
befriending
of,
someone.
From a position of power. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was answering.
Can I ask you another question on a philosophical basis, Daniel? You do.
Dennis, I've been called a lot of things in my time. Daryl, David, Derek. I've never been called Dennis. That's a first for me.
Dennis.
Darren. In fact, the
Can I
property
ask a
steward,
question?
the property steward at Hawthorn, you will know very well. The great Andy Angwin, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. And he used to call me Daryl. I played 9 years at the Hawks. I was Daryl, and he was such a lovely man that I never corrected him. I was happy for him to call me Daryl,
He's a good fellow.
even though my name was on the sheet every night with a jumper number.
Dennis is better than Daryl.
I'm happy with Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad. Good one, Doug. Just
Now listen, we've got
Go on.
somebody that's currently in the game. Now, as a broadcaster yourself, you can't get, or do you find it frustrating? And I cannot see why we, as media, cannot get access to current day players. Now, you're a current day coach. We would not get a current day coach sitting in your seat there. Footballers, the exact same. Now, the game's got to be promoted, even in your women's football. It's got to be promoted.
Yep.
In every other sport, after tennis they lose, they're interviewed.
Yep.
Post golf, the same. When do you think, or do you become frustrated in your situation, and do you think that the AFL should lift the ban, or the clubs lift the ban, and more access to players?
My word, they should. Absolutely get enormously frustrated in my position as a radio host in the morning. We can't get access to anyone. We spoke this morning, this is Tuesday morning, we spoke to a defender from Watford in the English Premier League who defeated Liverpool on the weekend 3-0 and broke their 44-game streak. We spoke to him today, and we can't get anyone from Western United, the new team in the A-League, who should be promoting themselves silly. We can't get anyone, let alone the AFL guys. And this is the one thing that the girls have up on top of the boys, Don, is they are so easily accessible because the game needs to be promoted.
To come in and sit down and talk.
That's not true.
Well, perhaps this is a different forum. Perhaps,
Yeah.
perhaps this is an unusual. This is an unusual
You're calling
forum.
us unusual?
I'm calling you three
No, but Darryl-
most unusual.
Daryl, please.
Steve, what?
Now, Daryl.
Yes, Jeff.
That was my question earlier. We've asked 3
Yeah.
girls to come on here, and I think the reason they don't come in is because they might get asked controversial questions or questions that they don't want to actually try and answer, or
One of them
they'll
was
think
the
they're going to be
CEO,
set
Sam.
up, or we're going to try and take the urine. I don't know what, because of our
Sam,
past
John.
reputations.
One of them was the CEO of the competition.
I'm just, well, she's a girl.
Yeah.
Dennis is our fourth pick.
So I'm down the chain a bit. Is that what you're saying about women's
no,
footy?
you're not.
Is that what you're saying?
We had
So
you
you've
on the
3
top,
plus
but
Nicole plus me. Is that on 5?
We wanted to see if you could beat Adelaide first, and you only did that at the weekend.
That's true. Very happy about that.
So you think that there should be more access to the men's game too?
Absolutely, there should be. People want to hear it, and the engagement that the girls give to their fans is second to none in Australia. Well, perhaps not second to none. I think female sport in Australia does it better than men's sport. Full stop. The netballers are the best promoters of their sport in the business. The female basketballers, they're magnificent. The girls, and maybe because they haven't had all the cash thrown at them and all the opportunities thrown at them, they are out there to sell. And they do a hell of a job, and the boys, I think, need to, and the AFL need to drive it. Comes from them, and the broadcasters will demand it for the next rights. I heard you talking about the $2.4 billion, Sam, and the $400 million a year.
Was that correct or not?
Somewhere near there, yeah, somewhere near there.
That's extraordinary.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot
so
of
they
money.
they will demand, if they're going to be anywhere near that figure next time, to have access to players willy nilly.
I don't agree. I'm the odd man out here. I think the access is amazing now. We're seeing stuff like to Helen back with the Melbourne.
Yeah, but that's all controlled. It's all
still
club
still
sanctioned.
It's not sanctum stuff.
Yeah, sort of stuff is awesome. Don't
And
get
there
us
was
wrong.
a story that what's Warp? the
James
kid-
Warple,
James Warple,
best and fairest winner.
yes,
Youngest since Len Matthews.
last week in the paper, where the Hawthorn blokes had all had a week where they had to do work experience,
Yep.
and he went into the prison system. We didn't used to see stories like that.
Yeah, but how often are you seeing those?
Well, I think lots.
I agree, Daniel. Not very often.
and this is
how
the
would
thing with
you
sport.
don't read papers.
No,
This is the thing with sport, Mike, and you know this better than most, is that the storytelling is so important.
Yeah.
Heroes and villains drive the narrative of sport week in, week out, and particularly team sport. And you've got to know the people that are engaging in those contests to really connect emotionally to it and invest, and then start paying your hard-earned cash to be members and supporters and all that sort of stuff. So knowing the stories of people is really important.
So
what about if we had that story last week of your girl criticised? No, hang on. She criticised Taylor
You
Harris.
get your thoughts together, Don.
Just
and
hang
Nick will
on.
come in with a-
I know where you're going.
You try to interview the girl that criticised Taylor Harris.
Yeah, Stacey?
you can't get access to her though.
Well, she was on Triple M the next day with Eddie. Now, admittedly, Eddie
we
was
couldn't
the
get
president.
Taylor
of Collingwood.
Harris.
Taylor's very busy. She's got a lot going on these days.
I rang you about Taylor Harris.
Yep.
If we could have her on this program.
Yep.
You didn't say no, but you probably weren't sort of enthusiastic about the idea. In the end, Sam contacted her and she declined. Now, would that have been her choice or would that have been a club decision?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't, because she does stuff off her own bat as well. The club obviously sanctioned most of her media appearances, and this probably falls under that.
There is no doubt. That,
I'm not sure it does yet. I'm still trying to work out what it is. Yeah, look, it's and this and
people
in
fear
fairness,
what
if
we
you
might
walk in,
ask or what we
if
might
you walk
do, or
into
our
a-
attitude, they just fear us.
Or you.
Yeah, well, that they do.
You.
if you walk into a room
John,
with
we had to face this when we played, and there was no sanction back in those days, and you learn to grow up and handle the media.
I don't think there's too many better in the women's game handling the media than Taylor, in fairness.
Well, we
No, I
couldn't
wasn't
get her on, and
criticising it,
she
but- No, I'm
doesn't
just
have
saying,
to come
to-
on,
to that
and
point,
that's
it's-
fine. I asked Alex Rance to come on when he, and I had a conversation with him, and he wouldn't come on. So
Yeah.
you don't have to come on because we ask you. But
And the other thing is, the thing that I do get from the AFL club's perspective, be it men's or women's footy, is that there are so many people covering the game now. There'll be that many requests to talk to people day in and day out.
That's right. And everyone trying to be controversial.
Everyone
have
trying to
some
get their
angle
piece,
where
yeah.
they'll get a bit of clickbait on. I understand that.
So,
their reticence
so I understand
to,
that to a degree as well. But I think there's, as a general rule, more access to players, particularly because that's who the fans want to hear from. That's who the fans are paying their money to go and see. More, as a general rule, I think more access to players would be fantastic.
Mick's got a perler coming up.
I wanted to ask Daniel.
He's not 74, is he? Only 73, aren't you, Mike?
73, mate.
73.
Today.
Same as Dad.
How do you look back? Yeah, I went to school with Daniel's father. How do you look back? Yeah,
Darryl.
Did he bully you?
He would have.
No,
He would have been easy to bully.
very gentle man.
He's a very gentle man, my dad.
How do you look back and reflect on your own career?
I had a great time. I loved.
Did you get everything out of yourself that you could have?
That's a good question. I don't think. I've actually think about this a lot. I don't think I gave myself the chance because I was scared of. Every time I pushed, I broke down, and I reckon that held me back. Yep.
What do you mean pushed?
Every time I really worked physically to try and step up a level in terms of condition and ability to, like work somewhere near a Shane Crawford. Like I couldn't do what Crawford did because every time I pushed to that
you're
level,
a different
I broke
body
down.
shape altogether. So shouldn't you have tailored your training accordingly?
I think the training methods back then weren't quite as unique and individualised.
Well, I thought
Don.
they were. We had Bowden Babacek and
We did?
and we had to
But I
we did,
think, Don,
but it was a
what I
more
think Darryl is
one-size-fits-all
saying-
program.
I think Darryl is saying, Don.
Darryl.
Darryl is saying.
Daniel.
Oh, Daniel, is it? Sorry. I was only going on what
Hang
the
on, we've got four
property collector,
conversations going on
property steward at Hawthorn called him. I know
I'm with you,
he's Dan.
Sam. I'm with you.
Daniel. I think Daniel was saying that in order to try and take himself to the next level, he pushed his body a little harder than he should have, and he broke down because of it, and that's
but
what
he
held
wasn't
him
a
back.
running player. Were you trying to be a running player? You're in and under. You're solidly built. And,
Yeah.
you couldn't have done a Shane Crawford anyway.
No, but
So were you
go-
trying to do that?
yeah, absolutely. You're trying
Well,
to
you-
be somewhere
you-
near it. That's
no,
what you're
well, you
encouraged to
shouldn't- you
do, Don.
Well, you're badly coached.
Well, that's
Who was
that's
there at the
subjective.
time, Darryl? Who was your coach at the time?
Well, I'll go through all of them. I had Peter Knights my first year. I had Ken Judge 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I reckon, and Peter Schwab 7, 8, 9, and Dennis,
Got the
funnily enough, Don,
trifecta, eh?
Dennis
at
who?
the Blues.
Oh, Dennis Payne.
Dennis. Don was on the board at Hawthorn at the time. He was appointing all those coaches. So if I was
Now-
poorly coached, I'm blaming you, Scotty.
Now, Daniel, I know I'm very happy to chat about the women's football and the your career. What about the car show? What in God's name? How did you start doing the car shows? Speaking about what was it called? Test
Drive was one of the
What
great
did you used
shows.
to do, and how did you get onto that?
We got 2 years out of Test Drive, Sam,
Yes.
and I'm still not sure how we did it. I got that job. I just retired, and I got that job because I was in Mother's Group. My wife went back to work when we had our first child, Abby, and I was the dad in Mother's Group,
Yep.
and one of the mums' husbands owned a production company and started this show. So I got a job through people that I know, and I said, I like cars, I'll do that. No
You used
worries.
to critique them, did
we
you?
used to get cars given to us from manufacturers. It was perhaps more advertorial than forensic analysis,
I was going
Sam.
to say, yep.
But we had a good time driving a lot of cars in great spots around Victoria.
Would you have liked to have done that job,
Oh,
John?
I would love to have done that. Yeah, I would love to have done that.
Didn't last long. The global financial crisis hit, and the manufacturers weren't spending as much on
I
those
see.
opportunities, Sam.
Yeah, I know.
But it was great fun.
Critique cars, Donald, and drive them. I'm a very good driver.
What are you driving at the moment?
Very good driver.
You're terrific.
He's got 6
I'm
cars,
better than
mate.
terrific.
It's coming out of his ort,
I'm
he said
in the
before. Cars out of his
Top
ort.
one-
It's a very big
Top
order.
1% of drivers in the country. Me.
Top 1%.
Top 1%. Yep.
Which one's your favourite car, Sam,
Favorite car?
that you've got in the ort?
I think. I'll show you that just through that door there.
The
I-
Ord.
I think possibly a 1959 Cadillac.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Is that
what
what we
colour?
went to Bowen Heads in?
It is.
Yeah.
What
You
colour did you
liked
make it?
Mick?
I liked it.
It's
You
red.
nodded
It's
off.
red?
You waved
I
to
think it's a
everyone
red
out
one.
through the top of the.
The Mustang's white, the Cadillac's red.
Don't you like the Mustang?
I do, Donald, but Darryl here asked me. Darryl asked me which was my favourite car, and I said,
Well, if you don't want that Mustang, I'll take it off your hands.
you wouldn't be able to drive
What,
it.
that good one?
Is that left-hand drive?
Yeah.
No,
And
the
manual.
one, you got a right-hand drive out there, haven't you?
No.
You have.
Oh, that's current model.
Yeah, I
Oh,
wouldn't
yes,
mind
I'm s-
that one.
Oh, sorry, no, that's current model.
Yeah, it's very
yep.
nice.
The convertible or just the coupe?
It's a coupe.
Well,
So you used to just write up about what the good points or the bad points of the cars are.
Correct.
But you'd be modified by what you said, because if you gave
be-
them too much of a bagging, you didn't get any cars given to you.
there'd be an element of control, we called it, Sam.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
An
Okay,
element of
so-
control.
You conflict.
Cash for comment.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
We've all done it.
All right. Well, now
Have
look, I think it's I may.
You're getting bored.
You bored, Sam?
Yeah, he is. He's going to wind this up.
I'm not going to wind it up by saying I am a devotee now of that football. I'm not sure that I'll.
What football?
Women's football.
I'm not sure that I'll be
AFWL,
rushed to the
women's
set to watch, but if I'm ever channel hopping and it's on, I'll linger and watch it.
Get a
'Cause
copy
I
of the
liked
Carlton
it.
Adelaide game last
Yeah,
weekend.
very-
Get a
Oh,
copy of the Carlton Adelaide
One
game.
thing, Carlton Adelaide's
Probably
team
what I watched
includes
last
Erin.
week, is it?
Adelaide's team includes Erin Phillips.
Yes.
Is she the best female player that you've seen?
She's certainly the most dominant. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the girl,
Leighton
the girl
Hewitt
that I-
said what told. I won't say told me, but
Did he tell you?
yeah, he did.
Right, so you can say that.
No, Mark Williams it was said that she was the best footballer at 15 in Adelaide, boy or girl.
Often the way junior footy
At
is
15.
So my
at 15,
question about a woman maybe sneaking into an AFL
At
side.
15.
junior
John.
footy is often dominated by girls and has been boys competitions for years.
because they mature a little earlier.
See?
But one other girl that I'd
Yes,
taken
see
in,
what?
well, I've watched it a couple of times, and she used to ride, and her father, we've had him on the show, Peter Moody.
Yes.
Brianne, she's improved. I watched a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, from her
You
first
don't watch the
Will
game.
you be quiet? I watched her in her first year. I thought she had some athleticism, but she's gone a step further. Her body's got a different shape altogether,
Yep.
and I'm quite impressed with her improvement.
Let's start. We've got one. No, you're right. She's an absolute ripper. She's only 22 as well, I think, Bree.
This
Maybe
is
21.
a question you wouldn't.
She is an athlete. She's a powerful athlete. She spent last year, the last 6 months of last season in the US at college. So she basically missed our whole pre-season last year and came in a bit underdone. This year, she's worked her absolute backside off and is one of the most
You want
powerful
to get
athletes in the
someone
game.
down there to teach her the art of ruck play.
What are you doing Wednesday night, Don?
I made that offer, but there are too many coaches at Carlton, I was told.
We do have some assistance with the girls at the moment.
And what would your
Hamish
salient
McIntosh is helping
points
out.
be to teach her how to play in the ruck, Donald? What would your
Well,
main
she's
theme
very
be?
predictable in the way she comes in with her athleticism. I'd teach her to
So do you want
use
to pour the
different
ground
different-
and
not-
glare and all that stuff?
Like you did.
come in at
more
different
body up at
angles,
different
and
angles, yeah.
also use her other hand. She's very predictable, but very, very athletic, and a lot to work with there.
I agree with you. I'm very excited about her.
Might even be noticed by AFL scout. Now, I want to. You probably wouldn't have thought of this question coming in the car. So
There's a couple
this
of
is-
themes, Sam. Not quite all of them yet.
No. Don has been offered legend status at Hawthorn, being an ex-Hawthorn player yourself.
and chairman of the Life Members Committee at Hawthorn is Daniel.
I am.
Thank you, Don.
Very pertinent.
And probably wouldn't have played at Hawthorn had you not saved the club when you ripped the Melbourne jumper asunder at that town hall
I
meeting.
would have got 1 year. 1 year before that happened. 1 year I would have got.
So,
But we're very thankful
Don
to Don.
has decided that he's not going to be accepting of the legendary status because they're going to present it at a meeting that he is not confident and doesn't want to be present at. That is the Life Members meeting or the Players meeting.
It was
And
the AGM, wasn't it? I think it was the
AGM,
AGM. Yep.
do you think you couldn't you just convince him to just grow up for a start and just come and accept it just in the spirit that it's offered?
Personally, I would love Don to be a legend of the Hawthorn Football Club. That's what I would love to see.
Everyone except Don would.
But it's in the end. In the end, it's not what I.
Family is saying, "Take it, Don, take it." No, I'm not.
Daniel,
taking
you're
In the
sitting
end,
on the fence.
No, absolutely not. It's your call.
I wanted it presented at your
But
dinner.
they're
or
giving it.
our,
The
our
giving it.
Life Members dinner. Daniel,
But yeah,
God, will you shut up?
you're the recipient.
Oh, jeez, will you get him? He's bigger than Texas.
You don't make the rule. I mean, so they are bestowing an
Let
honour
Daniel
on you.
finish.
I would love to see you be a legend of the Hawthorn
No,
Football.
no,
I'll get to.
forget
I'm
that
coming.
bullshit.
Shut
No,
up,
I'm
Don,
not.
he's
That's not
speaking.
bullshit. That's spot on. I would love to see that. In the end, it's your call whether or not you want to accept that honour. How, and clearly the sticking point at the moment is how that is presented to you. You'd like to do it in front of your brothers, so to speak, from the Hawthorn Football Club at the Life members function, and a few sisters in there as well. And I don't mind that.
Sisters.
There's a few female Life members at the footy club, yeah. Brothers and sisters.
Oh, well, that's out then.
You're so rigid, Donald.
I think if I'm sitting back, I haven't thought about this a lot, I must admit, Don. I think the Hawthorn fans would love to see you presented with that honour as well.
Yes, that's a given. And to say that you won't go to a meeting over another meeting or some function is absolutely pathetic. Take it from Daryl. Daryl and Dennis, both of them.
What would Jeff say again?
You're being stupid, Donald. There's nothing. Jeff's lost his voice. If you tried to interview Jeff,
Not recently.
He spoke to you on the face. He said,
Hello, Sam, I can't come on. I've lost my voice.
and I said, well, I could impersonate you, Jeff. Just tell me what you want to say and I'll say it for you. Don, you're a fucking idiot. Seriously. I could go out with Daniel Hartman singing Instant Replay, but I won't. Dan Hartman. Daniel, thank you so much for coming in.
Nice work. Nice to be with you.
And have you ever heard of Daddy Cool?
I've heard of them.
Well, this is what we go out with.
It's a good song.